Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. We are diving into some fantasy this week, Libration Nation. Our book is The Once and Future Witches by Alix Harrow, the story of three sisters in 1893, Juniper, Agnes, and Beatrice, who are hunted by forces that will not suffer a witch to vote. They must use their magic, wits, and alliances to find a way to survive. This led to such an interesting conversation about feminism, sisterhood, science, and lots of magic with this week's guest, Angie Hilliker. Angie Hilliker, Ph.D., is an associate professor of biology at the University of Richmond, where she teaches undergraduates about the amazing molecular machines in our cells. She also has a research lab where she works with these budding scientists to understand how our cells regulate mRNA, the molecular recipes cells use to make proteins. She is always curious about something, whether it's in a lab, a book, exploring a hobby, which includes playing the flute and making pottery, or exploring something with her husband and son. When she isn't reading science papers for work, she likes to read fantasy, historical fiction, and romance novels. She also knocked it out of the park this week with our cocktail. It is called the Wayward Sisters. The recipe is in the show notes. Please check it out. It is so, so good. Also, before we get started, if you like the show, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend about it. Also, I do sell merch. Just a reminder, there are no ads. I do not have a sponsor. I do all of this all by myself. So merchandise that I sell goes back in to support the hardware and software I need to make the show. And one last thing, Richmond Style Weekly is doing their Best of Richmond voting right now. Please go and vote for all of your favorite local businesses. And if you want to vote for Drinks in the Library as Best Podcast, I would so appreciate it. All right, let's get to it. All right, Angie, we are in person tonight, and I've already been telling you I'm so excited to have someone back in the original studio. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is such a fun book that you picked tonight. Fun, dramatic, dark, so many things. The Once and Future Witches by Alix Harrow. So very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I also, hang on. Let's do this first because you put so much work into the beverage and it's so special. So tell us what we're drinking tonight.
So I've called it the Wayward Sisters.
Perfect.
And it's got three major flavor components to represent the three sisters. So the youngest sister is James Juniper.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a gin-based drink.
Love that.
And I'm using Hendrick's Midsummer limited batch. So it's very floral.
Yes.
And then the older sister is a scholar. So I chose Benedictine, which is an herbal liqueur that has like 27 different botanicals in it. And I was looking up the origin of that, and it was made by a wine vendor and a chemist. And I thought, well, that's good for a scholar. And then the third sister, Agnes, she's sometimes very maternal. She's very steadfast and a hard worker. And so I made a chai tea syrup, like a bracing cup of tea, and to balance some of the sweetness with the spices of the chai.
It's so good. I'm loving it. I can really smell and taste the floral. And I think all three of them are coming through really well.
Good. Yeah, and the other thing is I put an orange slice in it instead of lime.
Okay.
Which is something that I learned when we went to Scotland a little over a year ago. And I love gin, so I was getting gin and tonics, trying there are a lot of Scottish gins.
Okay.
And almost every place would bring your gin in a wine glass, a stemless wine glass with an orange slice, and then you just pour in however much tonic you want. And the orange was so good with every gin I tried. So that's
Wow.
become my go-to.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got something new to try. We're also big GT fans over here. And you brought the Hendricks, which is Bill's favorite. So I'm going to have to get some more. Yeah. So thank you so much. This is lovely. All right. So I'm excited to dive into the book. And my first question I always ask is, who were you when you first read this book? And you were telling me, and I said, save it for the pod a little bit. So I'm excited to share this story.
Yeah, so I actually learned about this book from my husband, which is interesting because it's a feminist novel.
Yeah.
But my husband does a lot with James River Writers, which I know you've interviewed folks related to that before.
Love them.
And he moderates panels at their conference, and he always reads books by the authors. And he has moderated, I think, a couple panels with Alix Harrow. And so he read Once and Future Witches before the first one. And as he was reading it, he was just like, oh my gosh, this writing is so amazing. And he kept telling me I had to read this book. And so I picked it up after him. And yeah, I would stop and I'm like, Phil, I know you've already read this, but can I read this line to you? I mean, her writing is just so atmospheric.
Yeah.
And I loved the feminist perspective. I like historical fictions, and I like revisionist ones that center women. And so that really spoke to me.
Yeah. It's definitely, like you said, very feminist. I want you to take us through the story a little bit, but just prepping for this, listening to Alix Harrow talk about her pitch for the book, it was suffragettes, but make it witches.
Right. Yeah. and it's interesting that the book really centers around three sisters who are estranged at the beginning. And the three sisters find themselves in the same city, and magic occurs. And it's big magic, like magic where a mysterious tower appears out of nowhere in the town. And in this world, magic is real, but people are told that women's magic shouldn't happen, that witches are evil. It takes place in New Salem is what it's called in the book, and Old Salem is nearby and has been burnt to the ground and stays there as a warning of that witchcraft should not happen. And fear of witchcraft is one of the things in this book that really keeps women from rising to power, right? It's part of the patriarchy is to deny this magic, even though some men have a form of magic. And so in this book, the three sisters come together. There's this big spurt of magic like nobody's seen in generations. And Juniper in particular, the youngest, is hungry to reclaim that power. And so it starts with them integrating in the suffragette movement, because that's another way that women could get power. But they quickly leave that.
Okay.
Because it's not the kind of power they're looking for.
And so diving into it more, let's talk about the sisters and their personalities. And I know that they're based on archetypes. And
so there's a lot of Easter eggs in this book, probably many more than I even would recognize. But the number 3 comes up a lot, which happens a lot in stories around witches. I think the three sisters, they are paralleling the idea of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, but not in traditional ways. Like the youngest sister, the maiden, she's actually disfigured and walks with a cane. And so even though she's young, she's not the young, beautiful, carefree version of a woman that you often see as the maiden. Yeah. And the middle sister was a mother figure to the youngest sister, but left her in the hands of an abusive father. And so these characters are very, very flawed. And these are all things you find out very quickly in the book. So I don't think it's
not too spoilerish.
and so the middle sister's very maternal, but did the least maternal thing she could by leaving her younger sister in the hands of an abuser. And then the older sister is a scholar, a librarian, actually. Whoop, whoop. But is initially very kowtowed. She's very, she's not very brave about speaking up about things, even though she has a lot of knowledge. And so the crone is usually old and wise, and she's certainly wise, but she doesn't trust her wisdom yet.
Do you have sisters?
I do. I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this dynamic. Did you identify with any of those dynamics with the sister?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Okay.
But I think I identify more with the middle sister in the book, the kind of steadfast. But yeah, I think one of the things that Alix Harrow does really well in this book is capture the dynamics of sisters, that they fight and that they're grudges and then forgiveness, and that is part of being close and caring about each other, I think, in some ways. I wouldn't say that my sisters and I fall neatly into the categories that they do. But I was definitely the bossy older sister, for sure.
What do you think is the best thing? Like if you were telling someone, like, so tell me, I don't have sisters. I have a younger brother, and we have kind of like, I'm the older bossy sister and pulled him around everywhere until he got bigger than me. What would you say are like the most wonderful things about having sisters?
I mean, I think especially now that I'm getting older, having women that you can talk to about anything at different stages in your life, that you can trust with anything,
Yeah.
I think is really unique.
Yeah.
And, and that are going through similar things if you're
Yeah.
of similar ages.
Yeah. You have the same dynamic, your parents, all of those things too. You have that same shared history. And I think we see that also with the three in this book. So,
yeah. And I think your sisters, I'm sure this is true with brothers as well, but it can serve as an interesting mirror of your experiences as a child, how you interpret things differently.
Yeah.
Like, I think it can help you reflect about things from your childhood and what was good about it, what were things that are baggage that you might carry with you today.
Yeah. I think something with siblings too is like, I think we all have blind spots for things. And it's sometimes I'll talk to my brother about something and he'll say something like, well, obviously XYZ. And I'll be like, what? I never knew that, or I never noticed that. And he's like, what, are you kidding me? I've thought about that for 30 years.
I think that's totally true. Or something that they'll remember that I don't remember.
Yeah. So anyway, what would you say is the vibe of this story if you're comparing it to like movies or other books that you've read?
I think the vibe is like certainly witchy sisterhood. That, that there's power in women, there's power in collective women, and that women are often ignored to the detriment of society.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's that vibe wrapped up in, in magic.
Right.
And a historical setting of Salem.
Yeah. Do you read books like that, but books about magic? I know you said you like historical fiction.
Right. I like historical fiction. I do like fantasy. And I also read a lot of romance.
Okay.
And so there are different things I like about those genres.
Yeah. What do you like about this one?
About this book in particular? Or
I guess let's start
fantasy.
With fantasy genre.
Yeah. I'm a scientist.
Yes.
And so I'm a very rational thinker in my day-to-day life. And so I love reading about a world where magic exists and, like medicine is herbalism, even though like I'm all about evidence-based medicine and
we stand on this.
Right. And sadly, our current structure doesn't prioritize scientific testing of herbal remedies, so very few of them are actually tested and known to be effective. So like I don't use herbal practices in my daily life, but I love reading about a world where the knowledge of what we can unlock from plants is respected and studied well, So like books about witchcraft or alchemy, I think have this like intersection of science and magic that I find really fun.
Okay. Any hopes for the future of science and plant-based medicine?
I'm a little pessimistic about that.
Okay.
Because there's not money in it because you can't patent natural products. And so that's what keeps a lot of the big companies away. But I do think this is where academic science comes in. So people like me, so I'm a professor at the University of Richmond and I do research with undergrads, but whether you're doing research with undergrads or graduate students, we are not as driven by, can I make a drug, right? Or how can I make a blockbuster that can make a certain amount of money, right? We're driven by curiosity and by learning things about the world that we can publish. Yeah. And so it's actually places like university labs where people are looking into antibiotics that are out in nature or potential compounds in plants and toxins from animals that might be good drugs. And those labs can do that work and then pass it on to pharmaceutical companies once there's something that looks promising. And the pharmaceutical companies can put in the big bucks for clinical trials. So I think as long as we keep that partnership and fund academic science at universities and colleges, that's our greatest hope for that.
Okay.
Which is not well supported right now, but hopefully that will change.
What can listeners do to help support this?
Well, I think one thing is there are lots of examples of science that sounds funny when it might be like explained to you, like somebody is studying the brains of fruit flies or they're studying the immune system of bacteria. And that can sound really silly. Like who cares about immune systems and bacteria? But actually that led to CRISPR, which is our leading candidate for, gene therapy.
Okay.
And so there are all these examples of what's called basic science. I like the term fundamental science because it's about learning about life that ends up having unexpected consequences in medicine and other fields. And so most of that research starts at universities, and that research is paid by federal grants. And so it's a tiny, tiny amount of our tax dollars, but supporting that actually fuels the economy and then leads to discoveries that we can't even anticipate. So I would say support scientific research. Like, tell your congresspeople that it is worth a little bit of our tax dollars to fund research.
Yes. Well, and to have people like you're not from the Sackler family and are trying to like make $40 billion off people's illness and people's health. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are these terrible stories like that, or like the story of, somebody getting control of the patent for EpiPens and raising the prices. But there are also a lot of companies that are just filled with scientists trying to do good work. And the direction of the company is not always in control of the scientists. But, I think with COVID, the COVID vaccines that came out from Moderna and Pfizer, those vaccines would not have happened in a year if it hadn't been for decades of work by scientists working in academic labs and in government research labs. We wouldn't have gotten it in a year. It's because of all the work of scientists seeing that this is going to be a future need to have mRNA vaccines, this new type of vaccine, and even like studying other coronaviruses, even though those viruses were no longer circulating. They were studying them because they're like, there's going to be another one, and we need to figure out how to attack it before the next one arises.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was very grateful when I got my shot in January 2021, but I didn't know all that stuff behind it. So yeah, thank you very much. And listeners, support your research-based grants and university scientists and everybody else.
Yeah, it's also how we train new scientists. So when we don't get federal grants at universities, you can't have graduate students who are the future scientists who are going to come up with future innovations.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And in a way, the witches are scientists in and of themselves.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, they are. They're scholars trying to figure out, because their history's been disrupted, right? In this world, storytelling, which I think this is a really interesting part of the book, spells are embedded in children's rhymes and songs that are sung in the home, things that are considered the domain of women and children and often ignored by men. Whereas men's magic in this book is highly academic. It's in Latin. It's taught from scholar to apprentice. It's guarded knowledge. And it's seen as far superior by the men. Men's magic is something that's okay. Women's magic, witching, is something that should be suppressed. So these sisters are trying to, they've lost their grandmother, who was their only connection to magic. And so they're trying to basically find spells in fairy tales and poems and children's songs.
I've been thinking about this so much about women and witchy, and I was listening to Alix Harrow talk, and she was talking to her mother, somebody about writing this book, and her mother was like, oh, your great-great-grandmother was a witch.
I hadn't heard that.
And like you're saying, like children's stories, and I feel like there is something, being a woman, that has there is a little bit of a magic to it that I don't know if people appreciate it all the time. Do you feel this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things in this book that resonated with me was this disparaging of things that women do or things that women like. And I think we see that all over society, making fun of pumpkin spice lattes or Chardonnay or romance novels or chick lit. These are all things that women enjoy. Yeah. And as soon as it becomes clear women enjoy them, then they get made fun of.
Right. Yeah.
But what are most of the books selling in bookstores? They're selling to women.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is romance.
Yeah.
And romance, it's there's so many things that I think romance as a genre does, and it just gets tossed aside as smut.
Yeah.
So I think that really resonated with me. I think as a female, as a woman in science, I've definitely been in lots of situations where I'm the only woman or one of few women, and it's hard to get a word in edgewise. And we're all seeped in this patriarchal stew that affects how we treat each other. Yeah. And so I think I continue to see this pattern of ignoring or making fun of things that women enjoy.
Yeah.
And to the point where we take that on, right? Like we oftentimes when a woman says they read romance, they'll be like, oh, well, I have a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I do like pumpkin spice lattes. I know I'm basic. And it's like, no, you like spices. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I always have to like put the warning out like, I like Taylor Swift. I know. I also like Chardonnay. I love that you said Chardonnay. I was like, I'm always defending my taste on that. But yeah, no, it's so true. But I feel like there's something so powerful in like being a woman. You and I are both mothers. We're both wives. We're also very strong women at the same time, and people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Now I'm just thinking about situations where I've been in moments where I realize like, this man doesn't think I'm smart.
Yeah.
And I run a building. I have 17 staff, and I've had men come into that building and treat me like I'm their daughter. It's infuriating.
Yeah, or, mansplaining science to me.
Oh, man.
I think it happens a lot, and I don't think from a lot of men it's nefarious. I think it's just like they've been taught to speak in an authoritative way.
Yeah.
And I think all of us have biases, right? And it's hard to keep those in check if you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I wonder, and I don't usually go here, but I'm just like, advice for women or thoughts on this, like how to deal with it in some of these situations.
I think find other women that are in similar situations. I think there's a lot of power in normalizing like what you're seeing, because you often can't prove that you were a victim of like some sort of bias based on your gender, right? And sometimes it's small but insidious. And so talking to other women who can say like, yeah, that is real. Like your feelings are valid. And here's how I deal with a difficult coworker or somebody who treats me, like I don't know what I'm doing in my job. And so I think there's a lot of power in women backing each other up.
So what are some of your favorite moments in this story?
I think the opening page is one of the most beautiful intros to a book.
Do you want to read it?
Sure. This is the prologue of the book, essentially. Okay. There's no such thing as witches, but there used to be. I mean, just that opening line, right? Like, it used to be the air was so thick with magic you could taste it on your tongue like ash. Witches lurked in every tangled wood and waited in every midnight crossroad with sharp-toothed smiles. They conversed with dragons on lonely mountaintops and rode rowan-wood brooms across full moons. They charmed the stars to dance beside them on the solstice and rode to battle with familiars at their heels. It used to be witches were wild as crows and fearless as foxes, because magic blazed bright and the night was theirs. But then came the plague and the purges. The dragons were slain and the witches were burned, and the night belonged to men with torches and crosses. I mean,
so good.
It's just so poetic and visual.
Yeah.
And this stamping out of power, like so compellingly told.
Yeah. It's giving me a lot of Alice Hoffman vibes. Like, did you read the Practical Magic series?
I never read the series.
Okay. I actually like the first, like the Practical Magic I think is good, but like the Rules of Magic, like some of the later books, and there's like a prequel that sort of is that part of the story of the magic kind of being stamped out and then appears later in the story. Anyway, maybe your next read.
I should check it out.
But yeah, it's beautiful. And talking about the magic a little bit in this story, like you already said, it's like the fairy tales and the nursery rhymes things, but like there's always different kinds of magic. How would you describe the world of this one?
Yeah, so in this world, there's a phrase that keeps coming up through the book that to cast a spell, you have to have the will, the words, and the way. And so the idea is that, obviously you have to want it. You have to have the right spell, which is embedded in these poems and fairy tales. And then the way is like objects that are used to help cast the spell. One of this is a tiny little detail of the book, but these kinds of things I loved about it. There's a passage where one of the sisters is talking about how women's dresses don't have pockets, right? And there's actually like patriarchal reasons for that. Like there was a period of time where skirts were not supposed to have pockets so that women couldn't carry things, and things had to be carried by their male escort or their maid, right? And so I don't know. There are at least theories, I don't know how well documented this is, that lack of pockets was part of keeping women contained. And so in this story, they say that women don't have pockets, are not supposed to have pockets, because then they can't hide spells and the ephemera that they would use to cast spells. And this was coming, I think, from the perspective of the youngest sister. And she said, she has pockets so that she is carrying these things. But I thought that was such a nice little detail of something that there is a historical basis for it in our world. And she connected it to witchcraft in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And women always would prefer to have pockets.
Yeah. You put a pocket in a dress, women are going to love it, right?
It will sell instantly.
I've gotten to the point where now I'm like, anything I'm buying, whether it's leggings, like for the gym or something, if it doesn't have pockets, I'm like, move on.
Yeah, 100%. Like you're saying, leggings, like the little side swap. Agreed. Yeah. So, but yeah, I love that too. It's like the magic comes into the history of this. And she, like I said, I listened to an interview with her talking about writing this, and she was saying she was trying to like line up the entire suffragist movement, but it's so complicated and it's so messy. So she just decided to just like rewrite it a bit.
I saw an interview with her where somebody they asked about all the anger in the book, and she's like, yeah, people have commented on that, but is it angry? I just feel like I've been angry for so long that this seems normal. And if you do research on the suffragette movement and on how women were treated if they were thought to be witches, like you would want to burn down a mid-sized city. Yeah. And I loved that. Like, yeah, there's a reason to be angry.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think this book is very much for people that have ever been so frustrated. You just want to scream. And I wanted to ask, I know we talked on a little bit, but your genres, like what's your favorite genres to read?
I mean, in the past year or so, I've been reading a lot of romance. And I think partially it's because there are things that are stressful in the world and I want light. And one of the things that I realize I love about romance is that they tend to be coming of age stories, whether the protagonist is in their 20s or like in their 40s, right? There's some sort of reinvention of self that's happening. And so usually the main character is, yes, finding love, but also figuring out something about herself in the process. And there's usually good banter with friends. And so I love that sense of discovery. And it's probably partially why I love being a college professor, right? Because I get to work with students who are on the start of their self-discovery of becoming adults. So I think I started reading more romance because it's light and it's fun. But then also as I started reading more, I'm like, but there's also this great banter and this great, like, finding yourself and finding your place in the world, not just finding a partner.
Right. Yeah. Do you see that a lot in your students?
Of like the coming of age part of it, yes. Not so much the finding a life partner. Certainly some of them are dating, but I feel like not a lot of people are finding their life partner and know it already in college.
Well, I hope there are some meet cute.
Yes.
Like a little chemistry, like he took her beaker. I don't know.
I definitely have students who have graduated now, and are years away from the university who have married the person they were dating in college. So it's definitely happening.
Yes. Well, good. Yeah. And I love that. All right. We need wonderful things from these generations that are coming up.
Yeah.
So, and I do want to talk about Alix Harrow if you know anything. I mean, obviously Phil is her bestie.
Phil would love to be her bestie. No, Phil has met her on several occasions through JRW and is a huge fan of her work because of her beautiful writing. And I don't know a whole lot about her. She is of Virginia. She does live here in Virginia.
She does?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Towards the coast.
Okay.
And so I saw her speak at the Poe Museum here in Richmond.
Oh, cool.
She came out to talk about a different book of hers, The Starling House, which is like a Gothic novel. And so one of the things I know about Alix Harrow is that she got a master's in history and taught for a while at the college level. And you can see that, I think, in her books. She clearly does research in the in aspects of the story she's telling. And listening to her talk about the Gothic novel and what it teaches us about society and ourselves was just amazing. She is so smart. So if you ever get a chance to go listen to Alix Harrow, do it.
Okay.
Because you'll learn something interesting about literature and history.
Yes. Well, and now I know she lives here. I'm even more of a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, not like I don't like other places, but it's nice when we share a state. So hopefully, maybe, So, the Poe House. Also, the Poe House was where, so Bill and I were both from North Carolina, and he moved here first. So our first date here, so I came to visit him in Richmond, and he first thing he did was take me to the Poe House. So very romantic.
I mean, that courtyard is pretty beautiful if it's lit up at night.
Yeah, it is. It was like December or something, so it was cold. But Obviously, it worked out. What else in this story were you hoping we would get to if I haven't gotten to it there yet?
One of the things that I love about this book are the twists on fairy tales that we know and love. So things like there's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty where Sleeping Beauty isn't a maiden who is put under a spell, but is actually a witch who is controlling an entire kingdom by putting them to sleep and then is like running the place. Yes. Instead of hearing about stories from the Brothers Grimm, it's the Sisters Grimm. And even the title, The Once and Future Witches, is a playoff of The Once and Future King. Yes. And the sisters call their society that they build is it the Sisters of Avalon? Yes. And in Avalon, for people who haven't read a lot of Arthurian literature, that's where where Excalibur was supposedly forged. It's where King Arthur was healed after a big battle. And it's run by his sister, Morgan Le Fay, who is a witch and a healer. And so depending on the story, sometimes she's cast as an evil sorceress. Yes. And other times she's cast more as a powerful woman. So actually another great book that's about revisionist telling of stories from a feminist perspective is The Mists of Avalon. Okay. Which is the retelling of the whole Arthurian legend through the perspective of the women. So you see Guinevere's perspective and Morgan's perspective. And I read that in college, and it was, I think, a really formative point in my reading. It was for a class, but it was such an amazing book that it was the first book where I really read that kind of revisionist history from a feminist perspective. Yeah. And so it was fun to see the tie-ins in this book to Arthurian legends.
Wow. Yes. Thank you. I don't think I got all of that when I went through it, but yeah, amazing.
My college class on Arthurian literature paying off. The beauty of a liberal arts education.
True. Where did you go to college?
Oberlin College in Ohio.
Yeah. Very cool. Is that, am I getting right? Was that of all women?
No, it's not. It actually started as an all men's college. They were one of the first colleges to admit women.
I knew there was a women tie-in to Oberlin, so very cool. Well, good. What brought you down to Virginia?
Oh, my job at the University of Richmond.
Okay.
So when I was applying for jobs I knew I wanted to be at a small liberal arts college. So the number of places that are schools like that are looking for molecular biologists is small in any given year. Okay. And so I was just applying everywhere. And University of Richmond wasn't on my radar, but when I saw the job ad, I was like, this sounds like a cool place. And then when I interviewed, I was blown away. Yes. By the institutions. So.
Yeah. It's a beautiful campus.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, and it's a well-financed institution that does a lot of good stuff with their money. So like really good financial aid packages to bring this education to people who wouldn't be able to afford it out of pocket. So I'm proud to work there because it's an institution that I think is doing a lot of good in education.
Amazing. Right across the river.
Yep.
When did you know you wanted to be a molecular biologist?
Yep.
Okay.
So I started college thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. This will age myself, but I think my view of what being a lawyer was based on Ally McBeal and was not very, very realistic. But I remember starting college and thinking, well, I can go to law school and major in anything. So what do I want to try? And I thought I liked biology in high school. So I took an intro bio and an intro chemistry class, and I just loved the biology. It was a lot of cell and molecular stuff right at the beginning. And I was just amazed by how these machines and cells worked. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but I just kept taking classes. And then eventually I got a chance to try research as an undergraduate and loved that. I loved the sense of discovery. And so I went on to graduate school to keep doing that, to get a Ph.D. And I mean, that is something that like high school Angie would have never imagined. I didn't know any scientists. I didn't know what it meant to be a scientist. If you'd asked me what a scientist looked like, I would have said a dude. Like I didn't have it. So really my college experience broadened my mind of what you could do with a science education.
Okay. And now you're doing that for other young people.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Paying it forward.
Good.
Wrapping up, I guess, the Once and Future Witches. And also my cat just keeps coming in here. So yeah, she's sweet. She's a little skittish, but it's just the two of us here. So she'll probably be okay. Who would you recommend this story for?
I think anybody who loves fantasy, certainly. Yeah. I think that while it has a feminist perspective, while it's very centered on women, it also like some characters are non-binary, some characters are queer, some characters are not white, and so and I think having the threads of those different perspectives and how that layers on more complexity to be a woman or identifying as a woman was pretty powerful in the book. And I think even though there's this strong feminist perspective, it is not anti-man. It is anti-patriarchy.
Right.
It is against men who perpetrate that. But there are also male allies that are supportive characters that love these women. So I think, just as my husband loved it, I think it's really a book for anybody that loves fantasy. But I would also recommend it just to young women who haven't given fantasy a shot. I think this would be a great intro.
Perfect. Love it. I wanted to take some time. So we've talked a lot about your career and everything. I always like to give the guests like whatever you want to put a spotlight on or anything you've got coming up that you're excited about.
I mean, like, certainly I've talked about, advocating for education and scientific research.
Yeah.
I'm also an avid hobbyist of various things.
Really? What kind of hobbies?
My top hobbies are I play the flute and piccolo.
Really?
Yep. So I play in a wind ensemble on campus, actually. So it's mostly students, couple of faculty and staff who help round out the sections. So that's really fun.
Okay. So you're a flautist.
Yes.
Which always amuses me.
Yeah.
It's called a flautist, not a flutist. Okay. So when did you pick this up?
I started playing the flute in 5th grade.
Okay.
And it's because I've always been at universities throughout my education and then my work, there's always some ensemble to play in. Okay. And so that just kept me playing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you practice every day?
No. Hopefully the director doesn't listen to this. I mean, I think I'm a good amateur player, and so I can get a lot of what I need through the repetition of rehearsals, and then I rehearse what I need to.
Okay.
But I think because I'm so busy, if I didn't have an ensemble to play in, my instruments would collect dust. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And it's just a very different way of thinking and of creating. And so it's a nice complement to my work.
I think it's so important to try different things and create differently and like you said, think differently. We all get so stuck in one way of being, and there's so many different ways to be and think and do. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think particularly as mothers, right, of younger children, between having a demanding job and being a parent, that can just take up all of your time and brain space. And so I think there are a lot of women with younger children that don't have any hobbies, like are not carving out the time for that, or it feels impossible to carve out that time.
Yeah.
And it's so worthwhile if you can do it.
Oh, and I think a lot about motherhood, or at least the motherhood of them and getting them through school and everything, as it goes by so fast. How many times they get told that again and again. So important to keep something for yourself.
Yeah. What is that saying? The days are long, but the years are short.
Yes.
When it comes to parenting.
Yes, I know.
And so it's like getting in that daily grind. It's easy to overlook those other things.
Yeah. So any ladies or fellas out there, take care of yourself.
Yes.
Pick up the flute. Start a podcast.
That's right.
Angie, this has been absolutely lovely. And I love the drink. Okay, the drink again. It's called the
Wayward Sisters.
The Wayward Sisters. So
yes. Cheers.
Yay. Okay. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guest for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.